TPCSI fans, you want to revolutionize your sports investing habits? Allow me to tell you about WagerWire. WagerWire is an app that helps you become a superior bettor by allowing you to sync all your sports books and track all your bets in one place. See your current action, your betting history, and stats. You could also sign up for sports books and collect bonus offers. Follow them at WagerWire on X, as it's the best account on the platform. Head to App Store or Play Store now and search WagerWire and download the app.
Hey gang, welcome in. It is Tuesday, right? And it is in September already. Holy cow. We did make it past Labor Day. That was a good thing. Usually Labor Day is right at my birthday. My birthday, September the 7th. So it's wasn't that way this time. So, it is what it is. We got football on my birthday. So that'll even be more fun. I was just trying to look. One of these games that I already played, so it's not going to help me. I got a bad number on, but we'll see how it goes. So today's slate is new games, new teams. Yesterday some of these teams played. It was kind of interesting. It's Labor Day Monday, and they didn't all play. And then again today, they're not all playing again. So it kind of is what it is, right? I got something in my tooth here. There we go. And it just baseball has this weird thing about not always being available when they need to be, and capitalizing on certain things. Labor Day Monday, nothing's going on. Might as well have all your teams playing and be prominently displayed, but that didn't really happen. So I'd like to see baseball do a little better job of marketing and do a little better job of getting out there. There's some key series and some stuff going on that just isn't getting enough hype and run and publicity, right? So anyway, I had a list of games, and I gotta find them now. I got 35 things going on at one time anymore, it seems like, with baseball and then football and college football and all that stuff happening. So let's do it this way. I got to get this over here and then flip this back to pictures. And then I got to go to, I wanted to do this kind of live and see what happens. What I'm looking at is the lines right now versus the lines that I had them at a little while ago. And see where some of the value is. Now earlier about, 2 weeks ago, maybe 3 weeks ago, we talked about what's going to happen when it comes to this time of the season. So, for example, the White Sox are playing Baltimore. Okay, well, you can't bet that game. In terms of, you can bet whatever you want, but you're going to bet minus 300 on Baltimore. You're going to try to bet the run line on Baltimore. You just don't. That's just not a valuable asset in play. It just isn't. So that game, Baltimore, right now, Povich looks to me like 330 is the number, and I had it at 312 earlier. So that's minus 330. So we'll fix this. And I'm just going to see if there's any breaking news. So sometimes we can get some breaking news. Now, one of the interesting games, I thought was interesting anyway, and it depends on how you look at this type of scenario season thing. Washington plays Miami today. Obviously, two teams not going anywhere. But theoretically, two teams sort of having a little different path, right? I think Washington's a step ahead in their rebuild process than Miami is. And I think that shows. But I also think that it's kind of interesting that you have Patrick Corbin on the mound today for Washington, and you have Max Meyer for Miami. Max Meyer's supposed to be really good, but he hasn't been. And Patrick Corbin's terrible, except he hasn't been either. So in my world, my numbers, I have Patrick Corbin as an away favorite. And the number in the game, I don't think is that way, right? Yeah, you got minus 110 for Miami. Now, there's no reason to bet Miami minus 110, other than they're hitting a little better than what Washington is right now. But if I went and told you that, but where's my pictures? If I told you that Patrick Corbin, there he is a 105 SOPS plus in his last 28 days. He's an average pitcher. He's doing well at controlling the opponent's offense. I mean, for the season, he's a 134. This back half of the year, he's been halfway decent. He's pitched pretty well, to be honest. And Max Meyer's a 161. Oh, 61% worse than an average pitcher. And he's the favorite. So the reason for that is the sports book, when they say, well, I can't put Patrick Corbin as a favorite, all the money will come in on the other side. So let's make the other side a small favorite, and then if Patrick Corbin wins, then we'll make our money. So there you go. I think there's value in a lot of it, to be honest, on the Washington side. Now, I didn't bet it. I don't have this as a game to really break down and go over, other than kind of what I'm telling you right now. The reason is the predictability in these games is going to be so long, meaning that it's going to be hard to do because you got guys you might not necessarily know who they are playing, and number two, there's no reason for either one to win. There's no benefit for Washington to win, and there's no benefit for Miami to win. I don't think in this stage of the game, any of these guys are trying to keep their job, save their job, or any of that stuff. And none of that's going on. So we'll just see. The call-ups are here now, so we'll see who plays, what the lineups look like. But I don't like the idea that if you're going to bet on Washington, Washington is the 20th ranked offense. They're 22nd in isolated power. They're scoring 3.8 runs a game, and Miami is almost double that. Now they're 5.8 runs a game. They're 9th in isolated power, 9th in offense, and they got 5 guys hitting, all led by those 2 Orioles guys they got. They got Stowers and Norby or whatever, and those guys are hitting. They got Hill, who's an outfielder from Texas. So those guys are playing and hitting for Miami, and they're young kids. So, there's nothing to say they're not going to keep doing that. So I don't think it's like when I tell you, when you walk up to the window and whether it's $50, $20, whatever you bet, or you bet $500, you need to have conviction that, when you hand over your money, that you're going to be able to walk back up there later and give them a ticket that says you won, and they give you double that money back. If you don't feel that way, then don't bet. So in this particular spot, I'm not convicted to go bet it. That doesn't mean there's not value there, because I think there is. I think Washington is the valuable side, and I think you can, I think that they should be favored. And they're not. So anytime you have kind of that scenario, I think, ideally you really want to kind of vet that and go bet it if you can. But in this case, I don't think that it was worth betting. Let's see what else is going on. That was just an interesting spot. I wanted to hit you with that one for a second. This is another spot that I thought was interesting. Oh, here's my numbers. I found my slip to go over these games. But I really wanted to bet this game, and this is Minnesota and Tampa Bay. And again, my numbers come back and say Minnesota should be minus 125. And that's not the way it is. The number is 107, 109. So we'll just call it 108. We'll say Tampa Bay favors 108. So that means Minnesota's 102. And my number was, what did I say, 120? Yeah, 125. So there's value on the Minnesota side. So why didn't I bet this game? Well, I didn't bet this game because Minnesota can't hit right now. And I know that that's, a hard thing sometimes for me anyway. It's hard to understand how teams do this, but Minnesota, they're 24th in offense, 29th in isolated power. I don't mind if a team's 24th in offense, but 5th, in isolated power, because if they're 5th in isolated power, then they can capitalize on the mistake that the pitchers make and hit a double or a triple, or they can have, extra bases and make a damaging blows to score some runs. But that's not the case right this second for this Minnesota team. So then I'm starting looking at it and I'm going, well, wait a minute. We actually have some pretty good pitchers today. David Festa, after his first two starts didn't do too good. He's a call-up kid, so he's young. He's trying to figure it out. But after those first couple of starts, he's been dynamite. His his game score for the season is 48. That's not very good. 50's average. So 48 is not very good. But over his last 7 starts, it's 55.7, almost 56. And that's all-star type level pitcher. That's really good. And he is 11.74 strikeouts per 9 inning. Balls in play, there aren't hardly any. Batting average against is 188. He's dynamite. His xFIP 294, Sierra 319. So I'm sitting there going, well, that's pretty good. I want to bet on him. So let me look at what the Rays have going on. They got Jeffrey Springs on the mound, and we just said, Minnesota's not really hitting. Well, the Rays don't score very well and don't hit very well. I think they're in the middle of the pack, to the lower middle of the pack. Tampa Bay offense. Yeah, they're 16th in offense, 19th in isolated power. So that can get neutralized by a good pitcher. But Jeffrey Springs is now starting to pitch to the degree in which he was before he got hurt. So what does that look like? Well, Jeffrey Springs, xFIP, 3.39, 3.36 Sierra, 11.57 strikeouts per 9 innings. So every bit as good as David Festa. And that's where I run into, look, you got 2 top 25% base pitchers against 2 offenses that aren't real good. So I go, well, if you figure that out, then let's look at an under. So I started looking at this under, and the game opened at a total of 8, and then it was 7.5, but it was juiced to the under at 7.5. You had to pay extra to get it. And then I'm looking at it, and I'm like, where's it at now? There we go. Get over there. So all the way over there, I can't see that far. Bring it back over here. So then I'm looking at this game, and there's 7.5s and 7s, right? So if you're betting 7.5, you got to pay 125, and you got 7. Well, okay, so at 8, if you had 8, then that's decent and probably decent enough to play the under. My score in this game, I got to bring that all the way over here. Where? There you go. So my score in the game is kind of interesting. Minnesota to score 2.2 runs and Tampa Bay only 1.7 in the first 5 innings, and then the bullpens to fall apart. So I think the game goes over the number in terms of what my predictor number says, but I still feel like it's an under game. So if it started at 8 and it went to 7.5, you start to lose the value as the juice is there. And then you got 7. So to win, you got to be under 7. It's a possibility, but my numbers are saying, hey, the bullpens aren't very good. So then I went and looked at the bullpens. So where's the bullpens? Here they are, bullpen. So the bullpen for Minnesota, they've thrown 49.1 innings the last 2 weeks, and they've given up 61 hits. That's not very good at all. So they've been hit. They've been lots of opportunities for the offense to score runs. And Tampa Bay, 54 innings, 41 hits, a little better, but give up 9 home runs. So I can see where then how the score predictor said, hey, the back half of this game, there's going to be runs. So it depends on how long these starters go. You know, the score predictor does it based off of how many pit innings they're going to throw on an average over their last, say, 30 days. So, if one guy goes 5 innings most of the time, then that's where he's going to go. And that's how it grades it. And then it says, oh, you're going to get 4 innings out of the bullpen. And then it looks at the bullpen numbers and grades out 4 innings and adds it in there. And that's how they get to that's how the score predictor comes up with these numbers. Anyway, point being is that I think that it's just a weird game that I didn't bet. I think if I was going to bet it, I would just bite the bullet and bite it and play it under. But there's no value there. So, all the value's gone. You would have had to play it at 8 o'clock this morning to know kind of where it was, because you needed the 8. You needed to get under 8. And according to my numbers, it ain't going to go under 8 anyway. So if you wanted to do it that way, or, you can look at it first 5. But I was looking at that stuff. I was looking at team totals. I was trying to do anything, but the team totals in the first 5 innings, 1.5. It's tough to make that number work. So I just passed that one. Hey, Jay Barry, how are you, my friend? Says, hey, Scott, happy Tuesday. Webby's winners. Yep, I like that idea. Webby's winners sounds good. I've been having these struggles with since the All-Star break. And I don't want to say that you go through wins and losses. That's not what I'm talking about. Struggles in terms that you lose games that you really shouldn't be losing. Like I lost on a game. Just recent memory in the top of my head was the Oakland A's, and Mason Miller comes on. They're gonna close out the game. It was an extra innings or whatever it was. Maybe it was the 9th inning or something. And the Texas Rangers, Josh Jung, I think is who it was, hits a home run and walks off Oakland. And it just seems like every day, or at least every other day, something like that's happening, and just stealing money, basically. Losing games because of stuff like that. But whatever, it is what it is. And you just keep moving through it. And once that's gone, you start going, you don't even see that stuff anymore, because the whole first half of the season was just win, 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 win. And now it's kind of like you're struggling to get all that same momentum back. So we'll see. You just keep playing. And the only thing I can always say is make a good bet. Because once you make a good bet, that's all you can control. You don't control the outcome. So you just go on for the ride, and then hopefully the outcome works favorable for you. So anyway, Jay, it's good to hear from you. And Webby's winners, I hope we have 2 tonight. I'm going to break them down tonight on the show. So we're getting ready to do some of that as we get moving along here. So the next game on the list here, where are we at? Why is this not showing me? There we go. That's what I'm looking for. All right. So another spot that I thought was interesting, and this is good enough to actually have, I think, action on. This is the Phillies game against the Toronto Blue Jays. And let me just first start by saying this. The Phillies is the side that I'm going to tell you to take. But the Phillies are a 95 win type team, 95 or more. The Blue Jays are battling the Tampa Rays for the worst spot in the American League East. They're a 75 win team. There's 20 wins difference between these two teams. So the quality of the Philadelphia Phillies to the quality of the Toronto Blue Jays is a mismatch 100%. like 100%. So for the Toronto Blue Jays, and let's make sure that before I make a statement that it stays the same way. Where's the Blue Jays? All right, so for the Toronto Blue Jays to actually be a favorite in the game, that means the pitching matchup must be decisive for Toronto. So then I started looking at this going, wait a minute. Walker's not pitching for Philadelphia. T1 Walker. I mean, if T1 Walker was pitching, I get it. He's going to give up 5 runs in 3 innings, no matter who's on the other side, even the White Sox. But in this particular spot, this is Phillips, and I get it. Phillips is a young kid, and he's been hit, and and all this stuff. But here's what I will say about Phillips. When I pulled up and started looking at him and breaking him down just a little bit farther, go here. The one thing is he's only pitched 6 times, and I will say he's a bulldog. Like he's got a fight attitude, and that's what you want in a starting pitcher. You want a guy who's going to go out there and he's going to throw the best stuff he's got, and he's going to put it in the spot where he wants to put it. And if he misses, he misses. But he's going to challenge hitters. He's not going to mess around and try to nitpick and be cute. So he could get hit because these are Major League Baseball players and they can hit anybody, and he has. But at the same time that he has, in those 6 starts that he's made, they haven't all been pretty. But in his 6 starts, the Philadelphia Phillies have won 5 times. 5 times. And here you go. The Philadelphia Phillies are underdogs to this Toronto Blue Jays team with Chris Bassitt on the mound. Now, Chris Bassitt's pitching a little bit better than he had in the middle of the season. In the middle of the season, he was just doing good. And then as I looked at kind of this pitching breakdown for him, Bassitt, he's got more negative pitches than positive ones. So his WPA is a negative 39, which is 0.39, which is the worst in baseball for the last 30 days. So what it means is even though he has average metrics, he actually has a pretty decent strikeout rate right now, but he has average metrics and he makes mistakes. So because he makes mistakes, he also gives up a lot of runs. And that's where you take advantage of a guy like Chris Bassitt. Chris Bassitt isn't going to go out there and over the course of, say, 5-6 innings, allow 1 run, 2 runs, 1 run, 2 runs, 1 run. He's not going to be that guy. He's going to be the guy that gives up zeros, a 0, a 1, a 0, and then all of a sudden there's 4 more. He's going to give up a big inning because he makes mistakes and he stockpiles bad pitches. And then usually he doesn't have the right stuff to get out of those problems. He doesn't have big strikeout stuff, even though right now he's got some strikeouts. So then you have the Phillies who over the course of the last, say, 20 games or even 10 games probably better, they weren't doing so well. But over the last 20 games, they're 12-8. Over the last 10 games, they're 7-3, and that's beating the Braves. And the Braves aren't the best team in the world, but they're certainly a lot better than what you're going to get from Toronto. And when I started looking at Toronto, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I say this all the time, if he's not hitting, you can't bet the Blue Jays. But this is what I will say. The Blue Jays have guys you ain't never heard of that are hitting. And that's because their call-up guys are young kids and they're hitting. So we'll see kind of how this plays out. Their offense, by the way, is being led by Wagner and Lukes. And that's it. There ain't no Guerrero Jr. on that list this time, and normally there is. He's usually on there every single time. So even though the Phillies, I think, are the much better team, I think the Phillies should be a worst case scenario in pick'em spot. I think they should be a small favorite here. My number that I wrote down earlier today was they were plus 104, and they're more than that now, right? What did we say it was? Let's see. We have Phillies, Blue Jays. This is 115. Yeah. So we'll just say it's the same number. So the way I do it is I look at this and I look at Circa and I look at Bookmaker, Chris, and I average the two together. And, one of bookmakers 115, the other one's 113. So that means the number's 114. That's a fair price. And at 114 for Toronto, you're getting 104 on the other side. Your sports book might be 115. It might be 120. It might be 110. But where I'm seeing what I'm seeing is there's value on the Philadelphia side. Now, I will say Philadelphia is not the biggest offensive juggernaut right this second. They do a lot better when Schwarber's hitting, and Schwarber's the biggest pull on their offense right now. Turner's doing a little better. He's doing all right. I mean, he's still batting over 300, but Harper's the guy leading their offense right this minute, and Bohm is now out with a broken hand or whatever. So we'll see how all that plays out for that team. But I think there's still value in betting Philadelphia tonight against the Toronto Blue Jays. So that would be play number one. Is you got value on Philadelphia, and it just when you have a better team that's an underdog, you bet them, unless there's some kind of weird thing happening that you got to get into it. So I'm just I don't care about Sale and Freeland. I mean, look, when you're almost minus 400, is that what that number is? It's minus where is it? Atlanta. Atlanta's minus 350 and 375 at DraftKings. So it's getting up to be these minus 400, minus 375, minus 350 numbers. You're going to have a hard time finding value in that. Even though, like Webby odds, my numbers came up with a big number today for Atlanta. I'm not getting involved in that stuff. I don't want to pay $350 to win $100 on one baseball game. That means nothing. It certainly doesn't mean anything to Colorado. And I mean, the Braves need this game. The Braves need every game they play against Colorado because the Mets are only a half game behind them, and the Mets can pass them for that last wild card place. So the Braves need to win, and I think you're going to see them do pretty well tonight. They might not hit, but I still think they'll win the game. But it's just not it's too high. So then the next game to look at was this New York Mets and Boston Red Sox. And this one's a little goofy for me because what happens when I make a number, you've got team A has a winning percentage, team B has a winning percentage, and then what's the winning percentage when those two teams play each other? And that starts the basics of the line. And in this case, the Mets are slightly more than what the Red Sox are. The Red Sox, they're not a bad baseball team. They're just in a good division, right? So, and then you got to figure out how do they get past some of these other teams. They're in a bad. I was talking to Jeff earlier. He's a Red Sox guy. So, in the last 10 games, they've only won 3 games. And you can't, when you're going down the stretch like this and you're trying to compete to get in, you can't be a 3-7 team. At worst, you got to be 5-5. You really want to be 7-3 the rest of the way. I mean, that's every 10 games you want to be 7-3, and you might make it in because you can pass some of these other teams. But they're not going to pass anybody going 3-7. And they play a team in the Mets who are doing everything they can do to catch the Braves. Now, I will say that what's interesting is everybody was going to tell you in this pitching matchup that Cutter Crawford's the better pitcher. And in terms of projected WAR numbers, he's slightly better. He's not much better. He's slightly better. But where I get kind of messed up here sometimes, and this is one of those times, if I were going to go bet this game, I would have to go against my numbers. My numbers say this is like a pick'em game. My numbers are giving the Red Sox probably more credit than what the line is. The line in the game is there we go. It's 129 at Circa, 129 at Bookmakers. So we'll call it 129. And then when I made my numbers on this game, it was 139. So let's change it to 129, 119. So my number was the Mets 102. So So I sit there and go, well, there's more value on the Red Sox side. I don't like the Red Sox in this spot. There's several reasons. One, the first one is Cutter Crawford. So when I start to look at Cutter Crawford, and the first thing, the very first thing that stands out is Cutter Crawford has made 28 starts. 20. So he's only got like 4 starts to go, maybe 5. 28. He's won 9 times. The Red Sox are 9 wins and 19 losses when Cutter Crawford starts. Okay, so that's red flag. Red flag number 1. Red flag number 2 is if you're going to be a team to beat this team, first of all, you got to be able to hit left-handed pitching because that's obviously Peterson's left-handed pitcher. Well, the Red Sox are 15 wins, 23 losses against that. And over the last month and a week, they are minus 14% weighted runs created plus to our average offense. So you've got Cutter Crawford who wins 9 times out of basically 30. Then you have an offense that's 14% worse than an average offense. They're under 500 against left-handed pitching. And then currently the Boston Red Sox are 29th in offense and 26th in isolated power. They are scoring 2.7 runs a game. Okay, Red Sox are out. Out. I can't bet the Red Sox. But that's so bad that I want to look at the other side. And when you start to look at the other side, you go, oh, this guy Peterson, he's the reason the Mets are where they are. I mean, I don't know if you guys know that. I would say there's 2 reasons. He's the main one. He's made 16 starts, 16. And in those 16 starts, the New York Mets are 13-3. 13-3. So it doesn't matter who's pitching on the other side against him. You can take the best pitcher that you can think of in the National League or the American League. I don't care. It doesn't matter. And Sale's got the highest WAR number, 6.4 projected WAR number. So if you put Sale against the Mets and Peterson, you can't bet against Peterson at 13-3. That's what it means. And Sale's pitching today. So where's Sale at on this list? There he is. Sale's 18-7, 25 starts, 18 wins. That's pretty good, but it's not 13-3. So the point I'm trying to make is sometimes when the numbers come out and they say, hey, this is the way it should be, the Red Sox are going to fight in this game. And then I look at it and go, well, they're dead last basically in offense. They can't hit left-handed pitching. And you got a pitcher that makes all kinds of mistakes. So, and he loses games. So I'm sitting there going, I don't get it. So then I went and pulled up the offenses. We said Boston was, 29th. The Mets are 17th. So really, if I really wanted to go in on this game hard, I would want the Mets to be hitting a little better than that. But I will tell you that Lindor is the guy that stirs the stick for them, and Lindor is the number 1 guy on their offense right now. So that's what you want. You want the superstar to be driving the bus, and they are. So I don't mind this play at all. It's just it's more of a favorite-ish kind of play, and it's going against my numbers. And sometimes I get in trouble doing that in a sense that you create these numbers to find value in plays. There's no value here. If you make this bet 1,000 times, you're not going to come out ahead. But you're only making it once. It's tonight. Once. So you just need the Mets to have a good day. And what's the number on the game right now? Where's the Mets? I thought we said this already, right? 129, yeah. So if it's 129. It's not like you're paying minus 170. You're paying 129. I think again, like I said, there's not value in that, but I think that matchup wise, you've got a pretty good spot here. the Boston Red Sox just aren't winning, not playing good baseball. They're not hitting, and you got a pitcher that doesn't lose. So I think that's a recipe to make a bet. So there you go. So Phillies and Mets, right? Those are the two games I've come up with so far. But this game here I wanted to talk about. This is a game that I bet and was trying to find a way to bet it. So this is a St. Louis Cardinals and the Milwaukee Brewers. And you've got Steven Matz coming back from the injured list, and he's going to be facing against Aaron Savali. So you got two pitchers that aren't the best pitchers in the world and give up a lot of runs, to be honest. And then B, when you're starting to break it down and look at it, you go, holy crap! I'm used to seeing the there we go. I'm used to seeing the St. Louis Cardinals in the middle of the pack of everything. They don't stand out on offense, but they're not bad on offense. They don't stand out in pitching, but they're not bad in pitching. They don't stand out on bullpen, but they don't stand none of that. They're always right in the middle of everything. If there's 15 teams, they always rank between 10 and 17 in basically every category there is. But when I pull them up today, the St. Louis Cardinals are number 5 in offense. Number 5. They are scoring 5.6 runs a game. They got 7th in isolated power. They got six batters in their lineup that are over 1 WAR, and it's led by Goldschmidt. Goldschmidt's 6.1 offensive WAR. Holy crap! He's had a good week. So then you sit there and go, well, that's pretty good offense. And then I'm like, well, how does that compare to what Milwaukee's doing? Holy crap! Milwaukee's better. Milwaukee 6.4 runs a game. They rank 3rd in offense, 2nd in isolated power. They got 5 guys that are over the 1 WAR number. But the way they break it out is they have Churio, who's great, Adames, who's good, Mitchell, who's good. Contreras been there all year. You got a Churio 5.1 offense WAR, big number. But then you got Adames 5.1, huge numbers, right? And Mitchell 5.1. 3 guys that are 5 offensive WAR, and you have Contreras at 2.9, almost 3. It's unbelievable that they're getting 4 guys, quote, driving the bus, leading their offense. That's hard to beat. In fact, I wouldn't want to tell you that you can beat it, even though St. Louis is hitting right now. So then I sit there and I go, okay, wait a minute. Let's look at this and say we got 2 good offenses, 2 offenses that are hitting. Let's look at these pitchers a little bit more because there's a possibility, and just knowing the names, right, and then doing a little deeper dive, that these 2 pitchers aren't going to hold up. So you got to go back and you got to look at Steven Matz. Well, this is one of my favorite things to do is to bet against guys that started the season, got hurt, and then they come back with the idea that they're going to be all fixed and better. So we talked about this. This will be like the 3rd or 4th time. I'm going to go here. I'm going to go to Fangraphs. I'm doing this live so that I can tell you exact numbers. Then I'm going to go to leaders, and I'm going to go to pitching. Actually, I shouldn't do it that way. I'm just going to go to the top up here. I'm going to type in Matz. So I want to pull up Steven Matz. Hey, why are you not pulling up Steven Matz? I want Steven Matz. There he is. All right. So the reason I'm doing it this way is I want to share with you one of the big advantages that technology gives us today versus 6, 7, 8 years ago. So maybe even 3, 4, 5 years ago. So the first thing is I got Steven Matz. He's pulled up here. And I go to his game log because I'm gonna how long has he been out, right? So the last time he pitched was April 30th. He hasn't pitched since April 30th. And he made 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He made 6 starts up to that point, and his his game score for the season in those 6 starts was 40. 40. So he wasn't any damn good before he went out on the disabled list. He was awful. The opening day start was a 55. The next start was a 63. Now remember, he's a 40. So he went 42, 33, 25, 25. That's awful. That's not very good. So he goes on the disabled list. Okay, he comes back. He's going to get fixed. Fixed to throw 40. So here's what you can do that you weren't able to do before. So there's a button on the side over here where I have his game log up, and then I'm going to hit minor. So that stands for minor league. So here we go. So in June, he went and pitched 1, 2, 3 minor league games in June. Well, he got hurt again. So he never made it to the big leagues, and he quit pitching. But in those three starts, he only pitched he pitched 6 2/3 innings. Not very many innings. So he must have still not been real good. So now he comes up, September 3rd. He's been pitching 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. He pitched 6 games in AAA. 6 games. And in the last 2 starts, generally your last 2 starts are the tune-up starts that tell you you're going to be really good and ready to go. They don't bring you up because you're not ready. Well, the start prior to his last start, so the start on August 21st was against the Chicago White Sox AAA team. He pitched 5 innings. That's his longest start of the season in the minor leagues, 5 innings. He faced 24 batters. He gave up 9 hits, 4 runs, struck out 3 guys, walked 1. So not a great start if you're a major league pitcher giving up 4 runs to AAA guys in 5 innings. That's not a great start. So he needs to have a good start before they bring him up, right? So here's what his start was right before they brought him up. On August 27th, so 6 days later, this is against the Chicago White Sox or Chicago Cubs AAA farm team. He only made it 3 innings. That's red flag, right? 3 innings. He gave up 6 hits in those 3 innings, 4 more runs. He struck out 3, didn't walk anybody. So in the last 2 AAA starts, he's pitched 8 innings, allowed 15 hits, 8 runs, struck out 6 guys. He can get hit. He's not ready to go. And an average of 4 innings is not going to get through, and then it's going to be bullpen city for St. Louis. And I said this a million times. When your starter only goes 4 innings, and you bring in the other guys to bridge the gaps, to fill the bullpen roles, those guys are the worst of the starting pitchers they had. That's what they got. That's the worst pitchers. They're worse than the starting pitchers, or they'd be starters too. So this is going to be a long day, I think, for St. Louis, because the way the guys on Milwaukee are hitting. All right, so that's good news. So now we have that information. We need to look at it and see what's going on with Aaron Savali, because Aaron Savali, his game score for the season for Aaron Savali is 47. Ugh. Now, I get it. They got him from the Rays because they needed some pitchers because their pitchers all got hurt. And they needed a guy to pitch innings. He's been there. He's going to pitch. He's going to give them the best he can. And I'll be honest, over the last, say, month, he hasn't been terrible. He's actually been better than he has been at any point in the season. He's been better. So that's not a bad thing for Aaron Savali. Now, having said that, I say he's better. He's a 4.73 xFIP, 4.73 Sierra. That means he's in the worst 25% of baseball in terms of metrics. He's an average guy with strikeouts, an average guy with walks. Where he's being successful is he's not really throwing a lot of bad pitches. His WPA is pretty good. It's 0.55 to the good. That's good number. It's not a bad number. It's a good number. And for the season, he's a minus. So normally he's making mistakes more than he is positive pitches, but he's not now. That's why he's doing halfway decent. However, here's the outlier thing for him. Aaron Savali's last start was a game score 81. 81 from Aaron Savali. Now he's thrown some good games, but every single time that he gets an outlier to the high, right? Because remember, we said his game score average is 47. He just threw an 81, so he's way over his head. So what does that mean? Well, that means regression city is coming. He's going to get hit. So the last big game he threw was a game score 70. That's a big game. So right after that game score 70, he threw a 36. That's how it works. You get that big outlier, you're going to have an outlier the other way because you're not an ace. You're not a guy that goes out there and throws game score 65, game score 59, game score 60, game score 58. You're not that guy. You can certainly every once in a while pop off a great game. Everybody can, shouldn't say everybody. Most players have that type of success where they have one outlier game or two or three all season long, and they do pretty well. But every single time that it happens, they get shelled the day after. Okay, or the start after. All right, great. So can the Cardinals do that to this guy? Absolutely they can. They not only can, they're all hitting. So now I got two pitchers that are ripe to get hit with two offenses that are crushing the ball. Total was 8, so I bet over 8. I think the total, I don't know if the total is still 8 or not. Let's see. Let's go back over here. Let's see. What do we got? Look at that. The Orioles are already beating the crap out of the White Sox 3-0. Isn't that amazing? So, yeah, it's 8. I even see a 7.5 at Heritage. So if you can get that, that's great. I think this is an over, and I bet it as an over. I gave it out to my guys as an over. I think that's what you want to do, in how you see your address, scenarios like this. I looked at Kansas City tonight. Kansas City plays a lot different at home. Singer is a good pitcher at home. Bybee is really good. Now here's the first red flag about betting against Cleveland. I like to bet against Cleveland because my numbers don't like Cleveland. So I usually find some value there, but it's hard to find value against Bybee. Bybee's pitched 26 times. The Cleveland Guardians are 19-7 in the games he pitches. So if they're 19-7 when he pitches, you either support him or you just, if you don't like him, you pass. And I think there's enough reason for me to pass. So I'm certainly not going to bet on Cleveland in this particular spot because Singer gets hit. He gets hit a lot. Bybee gets hit more than what you think he does for a good pitcher. He gets hit more often than you think he does. But so the difference is Kansas City's offense isn't hitting, and Cleveland's has started to hit again. So they're scoring a little bit, and Kansas City's not. And you got a pitcher that certainly can shut down that Kansas City offense. So, but on the same side of it, Kansas City can win this game too. So I just think it's best to pass on this one. There's value in my mind on Kansas City, but I'm just going to leave it alone because I can't. If you're 19-7, there's a good likelihood you're going to win. Good likelihood you're going to win. So I'm going to stay off of that. Although I will say this, there's 2 more spots I want to talk about, and then we'll be done with the baseball part. You got Texas tonight. It's playing that's playing the Yankees. And I have the Yankees and the Orioles as basically the same team in terms of wins and losses. And Texas is just not a very good baseball team. Now, having said all of what I just said, I think the line when it came out this morning, I think it was right. I looked at this, and my number on this game was New York Yankees minus 130. And I think the number was minus 139 at the time. I don't know what it is right now. Let's go look. Rodon, where are you, Rodon? Oh, holy shit! I swear to God, these people are crazy. So the news of the day is Seager is being sit for this game. Now let me just say this: Seager bats left-handed. He plays against left-handed pitchers, but he's going to do better against a right-handed pitcher. So him sitting against a tough left-handed pitcher like Rodon is not worth that many points on the line. If the line was minus 140 this morning and now it's minus 160, that's two things. One, that's an overreaction to Seager not playing, and two, it's because it's the New York Yankees. And people don't think Heaney's any good. Now, so let's explain this for a second. Heaney's a better pitcher this year than he has been in a long time. He's going to have, this is like, I think it's in terms of WAR number and stuff like that, this is going to be his second best season he's ever had, ever. His won-loss numbers don't really reflect it, so he's been unlucky. And when I tell you that's the first thing that popped into my head is the Yankees, Rodon, he's pitched 27 times, won 16 times. So, a little over 500-ish, not a little, but, he's not got single-digit losses, for example. And when you look at the same, well, that's 27 starts for Rodon, 26 for Heaney. Heaney for the season is an SOPS plus 96. It means he's 4% better than an average pitcher at taking care of the opponent's offense. So that's pretty good. I mean, that's a little bit better than average, but there's a lot of guys a lot worse. And Rodon is a 109. So he's 9% worse than an average pitcher. So in terms of controlling the opponent's offense, Heaney's actually better. Obviously, there's a stuff issue here where when you watch Rodon pitch and he throws 96 miles an hour and the ball moves and it does all this crazy stuff, you go, holy shit, he's a good pitcher. And he is. He's got great stuff. But when you make mistakes and you don't put the ball where it's supposed to go, and you have 6, 7, 8 pitches thrown to most of the batters, you don't last long in games, and you don't go deep enough, so you're out of the game by the 6th inning, and all of a sudden the bullpen comes in and you're not in control of your wins and your losses, and you can't dictate the game, and that's what's going on with Rodon. On the other side, you have Heaney, who's just unfavorably unlucky, right? He has 9 wins, 17 losses, and it's his second best season he's ever had as a pitcher. So he's pitching very well. He's just not getting any credit for it. So that throws some red flags up. That tends for me not to want to bet on the Rangers. And secondly, if I'm betting Rangers, I really want Corey Seager in the lineup. I mean, holy shit, he's the best player they got. So yes, I would like him in the lineup. But if he's not in there, it's not the end of the world, because you're talking about a left-handed pitcher. So the issue that I really have in this game is the Texas Rangers over the last month and a week, last 40 days, they are 41% worse than an average offense. So basically dead last against left-handed pitchers in performance. They can't hit left-handed pitching. They play better at home, so it wouldn't surprise me if they don't put up a fight here. They're 6-4 in the last 10, so they haven't been bad. And second to that, they're in terms of their one-loss record against lefties, 14 wins, 21 losses. So 7 games below 500. But did you know this? The Yankees have played against left-hand pitchers 39 times, won 17. They're 17-22 against left-handed pitching for the season, the Yankees. So I think this is way more even of a matchup than what the number says, especially at 160. All the value in the world is on the Rangers. My number on this game, there it is. My number on this game was minus 130. It's now minus 160. And if I plug that in there, minus 160, so that means 150, 145. You are getting, oh, come on, man. You are just getting so much value on the Texas Rangers. It's unbelievable. So I think the best thing to do is either decide that you're going to suck it up and see if the offense can come through, because that's the only scary part of it. And when you look at the offenses, sometimes these offenses can swing around and play a little different than what they normally do. But the Rangers are 21st in offense, so that's not good. But the Yankees are 19th. And usually, and I'm going to say, usually is not even the right word. I type these things out every day, and it's almost impossible, except for the beginning of the season, to not see Aaron Judge's name as driving the bus for the New York Yankees on offense. He's not. Currently, you have Jazz Chisholm 5.1 and Stanton 2.2 offensive WAR. Those are the two guys. Where's Soto? Okay, so Soto is actually in the negative end of this, and Judge is just off of he's just not over 2 WAR. But normally he's the guy that's just killing it. Well, if he's not driving the bus, it's good to bet against him. And Soto is not on there either. Oh, this is a good spot for the Rangers. So the Rangers are 21st in offense, Yankees 19th. Yankees 21st in isolated power, Texas 24th. The Yankees just score more runs. They find a way to score. They've scored 5 runs a game, and Texas 3.4. So Heaney's going to have to pitch better, but I think he can. And I think when you think about it, and you start to really look at Rodon and the situations. Rodon is a much better home pitcher, by the way, than he is on the road. He pitches good at Yankee Stadium. His SOPS plus, for example, at home is an 84. So he's 16% better than an average pitcher when he pitches at home. He's a 126 on the road. He's 26 worse than an average pitcher on the road. I think that's a spot you can play the Texas Rangers. All right, so last game that I wanted to talk about. And this one was a hard one because I had to do some research and digging, like when you look at it in the morning and you go, I got to come up with all these numbers and lines. This is the Diamondbacks and San Francisco Giants. One of the ways I have found to find out who's going to pitch when it's not listed is go to Roster Resource, and Roster Resource is going to tell you. They list out who the pitchers are. And every once in a while, they won't be right. But most of the time, it's right. And so when it showed me Harrison, I did everything based on Harrison pitching today. So and then Harrison was named, and everything worked out for me. The only thing that didn't work out for me when this was, I bet this early. And when I bet it, I think Arizona was minus like 130. And right now they're minus, it looks to me like they were minus 110, something like that. So if I could get them at minus 110 instead of minus 130, holy shit, I would do that in a heartbeat. Arizona minus 110. So if you can get Arizona at minus 110, you get all over it. So here's what you got. Arizona Diamondbacks 110, and this is Ryan Nelson against Kyle Harrison. Now, Harrison has his good days as a left-handed pitcher, but I'm not worried about him having a good day. I don't care if he has a good day or not. The Diamondbacks. Well, let's get into it. So Ryan Nelson has been so good that they had to move Montgomery out of the rotation. So Montgomery is now not in the rotation. He's in the bullpen, and Ryan Nelson took that spot. Ryan Nelson is I think I talked about him before, but Ryan Nelson SOPS plus for his last 28 days 79 means he's 21% better than an average pitcher at taking and controlling the opponent's offense. He's really good. And I talked about Kyle Harrison for a second. He's lefty. Well, the number one offense in baseball over the last month and a week against left-handed pitching, it's the Arizona Diamondbacks. They're 31% better than an average team in that spot. This is just a good spot for them. So A, you've got a pitcher that can control the mound. B, you've got an offense that can take advantage of the other side of the plate, the other pitcher. And then when you come over here and you go pitchers, offense, there we go. And you look at it and you go, well, Arizona's fourth in offense. They're scoring 6.9 runs a game. They're fourth in isolated power. They got 5 guys with 1 WAR or above, and only 1 guy pulling back on them. And then you look at, all right, well, what's San Francisco doing? Well, they're 27th in offense, 28th in isolated power. They got five different guys pulling away from their offensive performance, meaning they're a negative 1 WAR or more. And they got 1 guy driving the putt, Matt Chapman. So when you kind of stretch that score out, it's 12.8 offensive WAR for Arizona, minus 6.9 for the Giants. Almost 20 WAR difference. I mean, it's 18. Yeah, it's like almost 20. So there couldn't. Well, I shouldn't say couldn't. There's not many bigger mismatches in offense, game strategy, performance-wise than this one. This is a big one. And then you look at it and go, you got a good pitcher on the mound. All right, that's all I need. I'm done. I don't need to dig into this any farther. It's the Arizona Diamondbacks, and we're betting it, and I'm all over it. I just wish at this point I could have waited a little longer because I would have got a better number than what I bet it at. But whatever. Sometimes that happens. Doesn't happen that often. I mean, the guys will tell you most of the stuff we give out, we got the best number on all the time. But that being said, kind of it's cyclical, kind of runs in circles that way. All right, so that was baseball, right? So baseball. We talked about the Phillies. We talked about the Mets. We talked about the Brewers, Cardinals in an over. We said you could take the Rangers, and we talked about the Diamondbacks. So that's like 5 different plays out there. Let's see what we can do. Now, college football this week I thought was a little more tricky. And here's the thing that I do with college football. So I start making a list, and you can kind of see the list. There you go. And these are the games that I think are good spots, and there's quite a few of them. And then I make a buy price. So, for example, Kansas State. I like Kansas State. Kansas State's minus 10. I don't want to pay minus 10. I want to pay minus 9.5. So I write it down, buy price minus 9.5. Well, just before the show, Hard Rock minus 9.5. Pop, I bet it. Just like that. I don't wait. You just bet it. Because these numbers get out of control, right? I want to bet Central Michigan. Central Michigan, the buy price was minus 5.5. Well, hell, it's up to 6.5 now. I think at one time I was okay at 5.5 because that's kind of when I figured out that's when I wanted to bet it. And then I went in to go look at it. It was already 6. And I'm like, I don't want to pay 6. Six is not a huge key number, but it's a key number. And then you have 7. I don't want to pay the 6. I wanted to pay 5.5. So I'm going to wait. Okay, well now it's 6.5. I don't think I'm ever going to get a chance to play that game. So that's what I mean by when you see your number, you got to go bet it, because otherwise it goes away. Now, sometimes you get burned on that a little bit. So, for example, this is a game I just bet, and I'm not sure that it's not going to be one of those spots where I get hit a little bit. I bet Baylor plus 14.5. Baylor plus 14.5. They play Utah. I don't think people are given. I think two things. One, I think Utah's a good football team, but I think B, Baylor's a team that people don't know a lot about this year, and I think they're a lot better than what they're given credit for, and I think they're going to hang in within that. I think they'll hang in within 10. But 14.5 is a great number. 14 was the number for a long time. I saw it hit 14.5, boom, bet it right before the show. So you have these spots. So, for example, stuff I'm looking for, like, this is going to sound really dumb, but Colorado is plus 7. If that number gets to 7.5 or higher, I'm taking Colorado against Nebraska. There's, I get it that there might be offensive and defensive line issues for Colorado compared to what Nebraska is, but Nebraska doesn't have the skill talent that Colorado does. So, especially as a dog, I think you can take Colorado plus the 7.5 and be halfway decent. So those are what I'm talking about. You write stuff down, you kind of look for it, and then all of a sudden, boom, there it is, and you bet it. Otherwise, it's not there. And then as you keep studying the games and kind of handicapping the stuff out, then you're going to go and say, where am I at? Because ultimately, and I say, where am I at? Meaning that your bank account, not your bankroll, because I made 4 football bets today, 2 baseball bets today, and I'm not going to have the football bets returned to me until another time frame. So you got to money manage things, kind of play things around, and where do you have? Because you're going to end up betting football every day if you do it right. If you do it right, you'll bet football every single day, even though the games aren't really until Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday. And to be honest, there's only NFL on this Thursday, and I don't think I'm going to be playing the Friday games. I've got some numbers that I think are good. Like, I think BYU is going to be good at over 10.5 on Friday. But I will say that there's a syndicate group led by Joey Tunes that doesn't think so, likes the other side. And then Brad Powers, he likes that side. It doesn't matter who likes what, but what matters is where does the number move? Because they both move the numbers. So having an idea of who's moving numbers and why the numbers are moving is important. And then when you have conflicting syndicate information, so to speak, I think that you're better off sometimes to just let that one slide away, right? So anyway, point being is there's things I'm looking at, things that are happening. I've got my list. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. There's 13 college football spots right now. That'll change. That might grow to 20, and then it might fall back down. I'm not certainly going to be able to bet all these games. Their numbers aren't going to be where I want them to be. And then you got to do the same thing now with the NFL. The difference is last week, for example, college football, those numbers were out since June. Same thing for the NFL now, but this week those numbers weren't out since June. There were some game of the week game of the year kind of numbers out there for some of this stuff, so you could see a little bit of stuff, but not necessarily all of it. So what I'm saying is that college football season opening numbers, those numbers were pretty stale by the time you had to try to figure out what to bet. They're not so stale right now, and will be that way kind of going forward. They won't quite be as stale and you can make some, and you'll see numbers move a lot more. The NFL is, not necessarily going to move numbers too much unless somebody now with influence comes in and does it. So you've got a game on Thursday, and this is Kansas City and Baltimore. And here's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say, if you like the Kansas City side, you better be betting the -2.5 before it gets away from you. If you like the Baltimore side, I think you want to wait until it gets to 3.5 or don't bet it. So here's why I say that. The Baltimore Ravens are not as good this season as they were last year. I know, I get it. They got the big running back Henry, and there's a lot of excitement around the Baltimore Ravens. But what has made the Ravens good for all this time? It's their defense. Well, they lost guys on defense, and they lost the critical component on defense. McDonald, the DC's gone. Does that mean they don't have guys that can step in? Sure, they got guys that can step in, but they're not the same guys, and they're not the same defensive coordinator. And now you're going to go play the Super Bowl champs, right? And the champs are better. They're deeper at wide receiver. They brought in some more players at wide receiver. I think you're going to see a better Kansas City team than you are going to see a worse Baltimore team. So when you see a number that's 2.5, it can only go one way. It's made to go one way. It's made to go to 3, right? So at 3 or 3.5, who's going to be buying that number? Professional bettors, probably, right? The professional bettors are not going to be betting on Baltimore at 2.5. That's not what they're going to do. They're going to wait until they get 3, and in most cases, they're going to wait until they get 3.5. The other side of this game that I think you could bet, is I think you could probably bet over 46. Not a lot of points in an NFL game. Your average game these days is between 48 and 50, and 46 is below that number. And I get it. A lot of this stuff is made up of market numbers from last year and this, that, and the other, and kind of where they think they're going to go. But I think what you run into is a weaker Baltimore defense, and an offense that maybe plays a little bit better for Baltimore. I don't know. I just think my particular side, I like the Kansas City side minus the 2.5. I was able to find it today. I think they're going to be hard to find. Starting tomorrow and the next day. I think you're going to see those kind of go to 3s, and when the public starts getting in them and stuff, I don't know if you're going to see 3.5 or not. But so the point being is you kind of want to get ahead of that just a little bit. I will say that the game that is most intrigued to me is the Friday game. I haven't bet that game. I'm a little worried about that game. I don't want to get that political, and I don't want to be political on the show or nothing. But look, these guys don't want to be there. They're playing in Brazil, and Brazil's got all kinds of issues politically going on right now. It's not even a safe place to be. The players are told not to leave the hotel rooms. The players are telling their wives and family members and kids and everything, don't come down here. They don't want to be there. So I wonder where the motivation is going to be for one team or another team that might be bigger than that scenario or that situation. Yeah, I get it. It's a high altitude game. It's all that stuff. But I also think that where's my notes? I also think that you run into in this particular spot that it's a bad. Here we go. I think you have a bad spot here for Green Bay. It's a bad matchup. they got a new defensive coordinator coming in, and you got Philadelphia with a new offensive coordinator, but guys that can play and then change the tempo of the game, change how they're going to attack, and of what Green Bay will try to do versus what they did last year. Last year they were a sit back, kind of catch you and let you get a few yards, methodically drive the ball down the field. They're going to attack. They're going to go crazy. They're coming after you now. And what does or can Philly do? They can attack that with the best of them. And they got the right weapons. They got the right guys. And offensive coordinator wise, they're going to be able to move the football. And then, you got a new defensive coordinator. I think Philadelphia is probably the right side here. Says Jay 6 runs in the bottom first. Jays, that's not good. Where is that game? Jays. Who are they playing? Yeah, they played the Phillies. Well, I mean that happens, right, Brian? I mean, it's like I said. I think that when no reason to be sorry. I mean that's that was one of those spots where you sit there and you go, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? I think it's a good spot because of certain things. And, the Blue Jays went out and, they scored a bunch of runs. So that's good for them because the Phillies are a team that is all based off of morale and momentum. And if they don't have the energy, they don't fight back. So I think the game's probably over already. Now, having said that, here we go. They'll probably come back and score 7 runs and get the game tied or something. Who knows? It's Major League Baseball. But I will say, I think that game over there is going to be a tough one to figure out. I think Philadelphia is the right side. I think there's some other spots. I think the Miami Dolphins are a good spot because the Jacksonville Jaguars have a new defensive coordinator and trying to figure things out and changing their whole scheme around, and they're going to have to deal with Miami's offense right away. So I think that's kind of a problem for a team like that. I think Tampa Bay's in a good spot. You got to watch the weather here because the Washington Commanders. They have the worst secondary in the NFL. So if you have not a big wind issue, not a big rain issue, that's why you got to check the weather. It's down here in Tampa. That stuff changes all the time. But if you have non-weather, they should be able to throw the ball all over them. And then I think you can bet props on Baker Mayfield, and I think you can bet Tampa Bay. Don't sleep on Tampa Bay. I'm not telling you they're the world beater and they're a great team. That's not what I'm saying. But I don't think people are giving them credit for how fast they are on defense and what their defense looks like this year versus what it has in the past. And they play in such a bad conference. So just see what happens. But I think they're probably a good spot. I think Seattle moving. If you like Seattle, you need to bet them right away because that number is only going to keep going up. I think it was started at like 4.5 or something. That's all up to 6 at a lot of spots. And the issue there is, you've got the Denver Broncos with a rookie quarterback going against Seattle's team that's got McDonald now. That's going to have good defense, going to put pressure all over them, and you're going to have an offense that can move the ball against them. So there's a lot of things to keep thinking about here and a lot of spots to keep looking at. I think that the Minnesota Vikings being now a favorite is the right side against the Giants. I don't think that they've been given credit for anything that they did last year, and I get it. But they had to go through like 3 or 4 quarterbacks. But even though they went and they didn't have Jefferson for most of the year, and even though they did that, they were still like somewhere between 15, 17, 18 in offensive EPA. So they did a lot with the play caller that they have and the head coach for Minnesota. Now you're going to give them, I don't think they're going to give him the best quarterback in the world, but you've got a quarterback that can throw the ball and be efficient, especially on quick passes and 3-4 steps back, bang, throw it out. He's gonna be bad. Sam Darnold. He's gonna be bad when he has to hold the ball. So as you're moving through all this stuff and you're doing all these different things, I think Minnesota puts them in the right side over a New York Giants team that I don't have a lot of faith in. I think they've got a pretty good defensive line, defensive front, but I don't think Minnesota's going to run the ball right into that front. I think they're going to throw the ball, and I think they're going to move the ball quick. And if they do that and they're efficient, then I think that's going to be good. I think where people are going to run into the issues is I think they're going to go and say, hey, this Houston, Texas number is 2.5. We got to bet it now. Well, you can keep betting that number. That number's there to go to 3 or higher, just even like the Kansas City number. But I think there's a different situation there. I think Houston's going to struggle in this spot against Indianapolis. I think Indianapolis is going to play halfway decent, but we'll see. I think you need to learn, and you probably already noticed a lot of this stuff, but there's bumpers and where the bumpers are, and then learn to go and say the low bumper or the high bumper, right? So meaning that Cleveland is playing Dallas, Cleveland's minus 2.5. Well, when that first line opened in the middle of summer, it's like a pick 'em, and it kind of grew. Now it's 2.5. I'm telling you, as soon as that hits 3, you're going to see professional bettors jump in on Dallas in 3. So that means the bumpers are going to end up being 2 and 3. So you're going to see numbers between 2 and 3, and everything below 3 is going to be Cleveland. Everything above 3 or 3 is going to be Dallas. And most of these games are going to find those bumpers. And if you think about it in your head, if like some of these baseball games, you start to do certain things, and you go, hey, how does this kind of work out, right? Where if you had your choice, like I do a situational report in baseball that says, here's a pitcher's performance in his last 30 days versus his full season. Here's what he does at night and at home, at night during the day, and here's what he does at home or away, right? So if you had your choice to bet on a pitcher, you would want him to be good in the spots that you want him to be in. So say he's at home tonight. You would want him to be good at home and good at night. You don't want to bet on a guy who's good on the road and good during the daytime if he's at home and at night. That doesn't mean he's not a good spot. It just means that ultimately he's way more comfortable pitching in a certain environment, a certain thing. Well, bumpers are that way for football games. The number's going to hit this, and it's going to get bought right back down. Boom, 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 boom. That's the bumper. And it's the other side of it too, right? It goes kind of back and forth. And you just got to figure out where those bumpers are so that you're paying attention. When it hits the number, you can get your number you're looking for, because otherwise it's going to go. It goes and bounces back. It goes and bounces back. So betting football is way different than betting baseball. You kind of have to have an idea of what you want to do and why you want to do it before the games, and then as the numbers get to key numbers that you want to spend on, you buy them. So it becomes hard for a guy like me to share information to help you understand football betting, like I'm trying to do with baseball betting. So I'm going to say it this way. There's a lot of people, and I got asked this question yesterday. There's a lot of people that want to read about breakdowns and games. Here's what I'm going to tell you. The question is where do I go for that information? And I'm going to tell you, you can go anywhere on the internet and find all this stuff that'll break down all these games for you. But what I will tell you is that most of the people that are doing that stuff are content creator people. They're not gamblers. They're showmen. They know certain things, right? They know certain stuff. But they don't bet on the games, and they certainly don't bet volume, and they don't bet and they don't influence the numbers. You know, what's that guy's name? That Sharp, right? That does the football stuff. Thinks he's the greatest guy in the world and puts out good publications. But he doesn't move numbers, right? Phil Steele, he doesn't move numbers. Do they have good information? Absolutely, they have good information. They don't move numbers. So what's the difference? They're content creator people that give you information. Then you, as the gambler, are supposed to take that information, use that to your advantage. And if you're an advantage player, you can really take the advantage and make the numbers work for yourself, right? So the behind the scenes work for football is I'm trying to figure out how to break that down a little bit more. And I'm going to have more time as baseball starts to end to do some of this stuff and get more involved in it. I don't want to tell you the same stuff everybody else does. The meaning that, if you go, so here's the only thing I will say that I think that should help you to a certain degree. Brad Powers, whether you like him, whether you don't like him, he bets his games, and he's going to break them down for you in really small segments. I like this game because of X, Y, and Z, and I got this number and blah, blah, blah. That you probably won't ever get the same numbers. Whatever, right? He's just and seeming like unlimited payroll to do it, unlimited bankroll. But if you want somebody that's going to give you solid advice, doesn't always win, but solid advice, and tell you the why part of the betting on football, he's a good college football follow, Brad Powers. And in the NFL, it's hard because a lot of these guys don't bet their number, don't bet the games. And when they do bet the games, it's kind of like, trying to rattle off some of these guys' names without, going too crazy. But I like Adam Chernoff. Adam is in-depth analysis of the NFL football teams. He's going to share his opinion. He makes bets, and I think he tends to be a little bit content creator-ish. How he comes across. He's a former bookmaker, so don't. He's worked as the guy who sets the numbers, so he knows what he's doing that way. So he worked for Pinnacle for a little while. So don't misconstrue some of the broadcast stuff that he does. And he's Canadian, so I tend to sit there and wonder sometimes where he comes up with certain things. But that doesn't mean that he's very intellectual, knows the sport, knows the games, and he does some pretty cool stuff. And I've copied some of the things that he does. Like I have a totals calculator that I use, but I can't use it until there's I think somewhere in the neighborhood of 4 or 5 games that have been played, because you need to use some averages that you have to have in there before you can make it make sense. But one of the things that is great about what Adam does is he's really good at talking about what a team has done against the level of opponent that they've played. And in the NFL, it's really important because there's 32 teams in the NFL, and you don't have a balanced schedule. You have the lower end of the scale teams playing a lot of lower end of the scale teams. So when good teams get to play those kind of teams, that's going to skew the numbers. So he's really good at going, hey, I'm going to separate those games, and just when I need to know the value of what a team is versus another team, I want to know how to do against teams that are in the top 15 or teams in the top 10 or teams in the top 20, whatever it is. So that you can get a basis of analysis that takes out some of the loose end other stuff. But the NFL is different. The NFL is about matchups, and it's about does wide receiver one beat that secondary? Does tight end one beat that secondary? Because you can say it, people tell you all kinds of stuff, but you throw the football to win the game, to score points. Let's say it differently. You throw the football to score points in the NFL. You run the ball to hold onto it so the other team can't come back on you. And then your defense has to be good at stopping the run so that when your team is behind, they can get the ball back. That's the NFL. You throw the football to score points. You run the football to run out the clock to win the game. You have a great defense that stops the run so that your offense can get the ball back when they're behind, so that they can go try to score to win, to tie, or whatever. And that's how football is. So it's all about matchups. It's all about understanding the most important parts. That you got to be able to throw the football. You have to be able to operate efficiently in the red zone, and don't overlook field position, because field position is yardage towards points that is overlooked because it's not seen if you're not looking for it. So anyway, all that being said, we're getting ready for some football. Football I gave out a little bit, right? Like I said, Kansas City -2.5 if you got it. I talked about the college football and stuff. So there we go. That's the end of the night show. It's holy shit. It's man, these shows are getting too long. I got to cut these way back. So anyway, point being is we got 130 people on here, something like that. I appreciate everybody showing up. I appreciate everybody being on. Sorry to anybody that followed the advice on Toronto, because not on Toronto, but on the Phillies. But I will say, if you followed the advice on the Washington Nationals, you'd probably be happy. So looks like the Nationals are ahead 4-0 there. So anyway, point being is, see what happens. Oh yeah, that's St. Louis game with Milwaukee just started. Looks like there's already runs in that one. So see how it goes tonight, guys. Let's hope we get some good positive results. And I will see you. Today's Tuesday. I will be back tomorrow, trying to look at scheduling and doing some different things. And I think I was going to be on yesterday, but it didn't really work out. Yesterday wasn't a whole lot of good stuff to talk about. I don't like to come on these things. Like over the weekend, I didn't come on at all. It's so hard to come on sometimes when there's not a whole lot to say. So anyway, we'll just keep playing it by ear, keep working on it, and keep growing. Thanks a lot, guys. Follow me on Twitter, like, retweet, do all that stuff. That really, really does help the show. I know I say that all the time. I got a couple guys that like that retweet a lot of stuff. Jay Berry's one of them. You guys do it, Mr. Jenkins. Those guys do a great job of helping get the word out, so that we can drive up the volume of the traffic. And as we keep going, we'll just keep going, right? So follow me on Twitter. Go to my website, mlb-data.com. Sign up to be a member. It costs you $100. You get all the data information that I provide, like, when I do the shows. And then if you want to follow the bets I make, I put them in there. So you can follow them if you want to. If you don't have to. And then we go from there. So guys, have a great night. Let's see if we can make some money. See you again tomorrow.